These are two exceptional founders who are redefining style and community and business on their own terms. First, we have Gretchen Maull, who is the founder and designer behind Gigi Maull, a handbag brand built on the belief that women can achieve more and feel true freedom through multifunctional, hands-free design that never sacrifices beauty. Drawing from her design expertise at Missoni, Oscar de la Renta, and Kate Spade, Gretchen launched Gigi Maull in partnership with Intermix in 2016 after completing the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. She's transitioned the brand away from major retailers to build a thriving direct-to-consumer model. Today, Gigi Maull stands for empowering women through confidence and purpose, inviting them to wear their values with their handbags designed, hunted, and produced by women. Alongside her, we have Julia O'Mara, co-founder and COO of Pickle, the Airbnb of fashion. Pickle is a peer-to-peer fashion rental marketplace that is rewriting the way we think about ownership and community. A former product manager at Blackstone with a degree from UPenn, Julia went from finance to circular fashion, raising over $20 million and scaling fast. Julia is also only 28 years old. I have to shout her out here. And she's a Forbes 30 under 30. So we are so excited to have you up here. So today we'll explore their journeys, the pivots, the lessons, the values they relied on, and what it really takes to scale at speed. Whether you're building a brand, leading a team, or simply thinking about your life differently, you're in the right spot. So let's dive in. Gretchen, Julia, thank you guys both so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. This is so wonderful.
Yay, I'm so excited. I know you guys both personally, but it's so fun to be up here with this incredible group of women and be able to share your stories with so many more people who I know are going to just be really inspired and have some fun takeaways. So first question I have for both of you. What was the defining moment when you said, I am ready to leave corporate America? What made you realize that having the perfect resume was not the perfect life for you?
It was 2015. I was a senior handbag designer at Juicy Couture, and three things happened simultaneously in my life. The first one was Juicy Couture was acquired by Authentic Brands Group. So I watched a company that I'd sort of built be dismantled. The second thing was my sister was actually hit by a car crossing the street in New York. She's made a full recovery, but being in a coma for 2 weeks really let me reprioritize what was important to me, and tomorrow's never given. So follow your dreams, today. And then lastly, while I was taking corporate liquidators around to liquidate the office of Juicy, there was all the machines and all the pattern maker who'd been there for 20 years at Liz Claiborne were all let go, and the liquidators were like, do you want all of these machines and materials? And things started falling in my lap, and I was like, I think the universe is telling me it's time to live my dreams.
Time to make a change.
Yeah, and that's how Gigi Maull was born.
Awesome. Yes, I had some external factors as well that resulted in leaving corporate America. The timeline was I graduated from Penn in 2019, and Penn was definitely one of those schools that it was all about building your perfect resume. It was very pre-professional. Everyone went into consulting or finance. These more established companies, Blackstone was one of them. It was a great job to have right out of school. And I was there for just a year and a half. And the first 9 months, I was in New York City, learning what it's like to live in such a big, busy city. And then COVID hit. So I was just there for 9 months. And all of a sudden we were sent home from Blackstone, which was not normal. I don't even know if they knew what work from home was. It was 5 days in the office with zero flexibility in any form. And I quickly realized when I was home that I was not very interested in the work that I was doing at Blackstone. I really liked the camaraderie that I had with coworkers there, the late nights and long hours with other people that were really ambitious, but other than that, not super interested. Fortunately, though, Blackstone is where I met my co-founder, Brian McMahon, and we started during the COVID time. You had a little bit of separation outside of the office with work from home. That was probably the biggest benefit. And all of a sudden, we were starting to think about our first version of Pickle, which I'm sure we'll dive into later. And at that point, I was spending all of my time outside of working hours or potentially overlapping with working hours. Don't repeat that. And weekends working on this idea. And when it came time to make that jump to leave corporate America, that was spring of 2021. At that point, Brian and I had built out a bit of an MVP. We had a lot of conviction in our idea, and most importantly, I had a lot of conviction in our founding partnership. So we made that jump in the spring and never looked back, fortunately. When I was doing that, though, the biggest thing I remember thinking was, what's the worst that happens if this company fails? Then it'll be a really good interview story for corporate America again.
I love that. So I think the theme here with both of your stories and knowing kind of like when was it time to make the jump, it was almost like life literally unfolded for you and you just actually tuned in and trusted your intuition to say like, this doesn't feel right for me anymore. I need to make a change. I don't know where I'm going. It's really scary. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's going to work. I might run out of money. I might not be able to pay rent, but like, I have to do something differently. I have to get started. I have to try, which I think in entrepreneurship, that's like one of the most important lessons you learn very, very early on is you have to make pivots very quickly and you have to trust your intuition and you have to tune out outside noise, which it's not for everybody and it's not easy to do. I'm sure these were like, there was a lot of sleepless nights. You guys were...
It took me 3 months every day walking in and saying, today I'm quitting my job. Yeah. Today's the day for like 3 to 6 months.
You were walking in the office. I was at home. You can just do it behind a computer. It's a little easier.
It's a little easier. You close the screen, go outside, book a flight, whatever you do. No. So, okay. So next question. So every founder faces a make or break moment. What was yours? What was a tough decision that you had to make and how did it shape the next stage of your company's growth? And I guess let's start with Julia. And I think let's touch on your MVP 1 and like what was Pickle 1.0 and how did we get to where we are today?
Yes. Pickle 1.0 was a very different app than what we are today. It was actually a social polling app. So we were helping people crowdsource opinions, deciding what to wear and what to buy. Think about Instagram polls, but put it into an app. So if you were in the market to buy something new or asking a community of like-minded people what to wear, they would vote on your poll. And then ideally that would de-risk your purchase decision or whatever you were looking to get advice on. We left Blackstone to start that. And it's very challenging to start a social network from scratch. You have to get a lot of people on the platform very quickly in order to add value. And that was its own challenge. We were very product focused. We didn't have a lot of knowledge around marketing or distribution yet. It's definitely something we did a lot better for our current marketplace. But we ended up working on that for around a year. And this was the moment that was going to be make or break for the business. We started... it was really hard. We were first-time founders. We really didn't know what we were doing, and learning about getting people to download an app, finding utility there was something we hadn't done before. And when we were doing a deep analysis on what was working, what wasn't working, we quickly realized that we didn't have retained users. People didn't want to come back onto the app. So they had downloaded, they'd create an account, but then they weren't really using it after that, which is a very big problem if you're building an app. So we took some of that data and then we thought, okay, this is not great, but what are some of the good things that are happening on here? And we saw that there was a higher usage around the fashion polls, specifically when people were asking for recommendations about what they were wearing and buying. And we saw, even more interestingly, within those polls, there was a higher number of comments. And people were often recommending items from their own closets. They were vouching for brands that they really loved, saying this is super high quality. If you're buying a wedding guest dress, you have to buy Staud, whatever that was. And even a few comments of people saying, hey, don't buy this, you could just borrow it. And that was a big insight aha moment of, hey, this is interesting. It seems like there might be an opportunity for people to open up and share their closets with each other. What does that space look like? Mm-hmm. That was the moment we went and looked at the rental space. There were a lot of players there that had very different business models that were asset heavy. They owned all of the inventory. They were managing that process end to end. We did not want to do that. That is very capital intensive and we had zero money. So we looked at an option that would be very asset light and ended up thinking about, why don't we build out a peer-to-peer rental marketplace? If Airbnb can do it for their homes and Uber helps do that with cars, same with Turo, why doesn't this exist for your closets? And that led us to our heavy pivot in May of 2022 to the fashion rental marketplace that we are today.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. I know I've heard it a bunch of times from you, but you guys will open up to questions at the end. So thank you, Julia, for sharing that. Gretchen, so same question for you. What was this make or break moment for you? What was the tough decision you had to make to really change and pivot the trajectory of your company?
I had two make or break moments since founding Gigi Mall. One was in 2018, I decided to pull out of wholesale. So that took like 6 figures off our bottom line and was scary. But I had completed the Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business program. I noticed how little revenue I was actually making from it. The retailers are also very disempowering. I wanted to empower women. So, and I wanted the direct relationship with my customer, and the retailer sort of owns that relationship. They're also taking the biggest cut of the margin. There's so many things. But I created something called Voice Your Vision, where my rebels, my customers, replace the department store buyer. And now, like, you get to pre-purchase at a lower price, and that funds our production. So that was sort of a big moment for Gigi Mall. And then the second one was during COVID and this launch of my new collection. I found out about the invasive python problem we have here in Southern Florida. There's only 50 licensed python hunters, and they think there's 500,000 snakes. I think they birth about like 50 eggs a year. So it's a massive problem. But yeah, we're making our bags using the invasive python. I had to change my supply chain from in Italy to being in the US. And that was just, it's a big pivot. I'll let you know how it goes.
It's a huge pivot.
I don't know if it's made or break Gigi Mall yet.
But you're learning, right?
But I'm learning,
that's
and
part of
I love
entrepreneurship
being
is-
like net positive for the environment. We buy from only female hunters, so it's like women from end to end supply chain.
You have some bags
Yeah,
over
which I
here.
have some
Everybody
bags
can
here you
check
guys
out
can
later.
see. But yeah,
Check out the collection. Okay, Julia, what has been the single hardest investor objection to Pickle's business model? I know it took you your first, when you guys were trying to raise the first rounds, it was a lot of no's. It was a lot of no's.
It took us 2.5 years to get our first institutional check. When we started Pickle, the polling app, we had raised around $200,000 in family and friends, and we made that last for like 2.5 years, which
I
is
was gonna say, for how long? 2 people in New York City, you made 200K last.
for 2.5 years. Yeah, it was not really
insane. Can you
sustainable.
guys
It was-
imagine?
Yeah, no. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. By the way, it's not like we were trying to raise money. We were trying that whole entire time, hence all of the no's. And the polling app kind of understood that one. That one, we just didn't have like the same traction, those retention metrics. Then we had this big pivot. And obviously, you're starting all the way from scratch. We had so many different reasons why people were saying no at the beginning, but I would maybe stick to. At the very beginning, it was I don't invest in the rental space. Marketplaces are impossible to build, and this is a high volume marketplace that you'll need to be working on in order to actually make a significant amount of revenue. And GOV, you have to have a lot of turns, a lot of people that are renting. But one of the strongest objections that we would always get was, will this ever work outside of New York City? And New York City is a very dense city, obviously, and it's super helpful for building up the supply. When thinking about a marketplace, you have to have a lot of items for people to be able to rent in order for you to tell people, hey, go rent on Pickle. There needs to be quality supply there. New York City's, there's people everywhere, which is great. So that was the biggest question and objection there, and we had to prove that out. Although for our very first check, we were building New York City first. We did a city-by-city approach, kind of similar to Uber, and ended up having to prove out our second city in order to get to like our Series A. So that was a really important aspect there, that we showed a lot of traction in LA. We're now growing in Miami, which is very exciting. And the way that we ended up doing that was, although we were focused on locality, i.e. we literally allow people to rent their items to each other and have them delivered to their door in as fast as 2 hours with our courier delivery. great in New York City, and it works anywhere in the country when you have closets that are close enough to each other. You can integrate a courier like Uber, DoorDash. But people were also able to ship items across the country. So they started shipping from New York City out to LA. And then in LA, people started thinking, oh, I could also open up my closet. And then we would see some local rentals start to happen there. And that was early signals and enough traction that we were able to get to that next round. And now we have traction in cities all across the country outside of New York, LA, Miami, including Dallas, Chicago, Austin, and have more recently implemented a fellows program to help amplify that as well.
Amazing. All right, next question is for you, Gretchen. So let's talk about a wholesale or retail partnership that really looked glamorous from the outside, but ended up killing your margins, cash flow, and knowing what you know now. Would you do it again?
So I think this was 2017. I had gotten into Curve. It's an intermix-like boutique. There's all six of their doors in New York and LA based. They wanted to sell the bags on consignment. They were selling very well. I was getting selling reports every month, but they weren't actually paying me for the sales that were happening. So I ended up, I guess, even being in LA and having to kind of strong arm the owner of the store. And she was like, I'll give you 75 cents on the dollar. And they were like, what? You've already gotten 60% of the retail markup. That was definitely like a big pivoting point to just going back and valuing my worth and kind of creating my own terms. It's why I don't really do wholesale anymore. It's a great piece, but it kind of just lets you like know your worth. Now I don't do commission that much. If I do my own commission-based model, and it's sort of take it or leave it.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, question for both of you. What is an unpopular opinion you hold about brand building, pricing, discounts, community, and influencers that most founders won't say?
I think, well, there are a lot of hot takes I could say. This is recorded, right? One of them that is, I will take a step back after I say this, but the harshest way I could say this would be paid influencer marketing is a scam. I'm not actually going to say that as my final quote or anything, but influencer marketing is something that is a really powerful tool. One, we use it, but we don't do any paid influencer marketing for many reasons. One, when we started working with influencers, they were great for Pickle because they have amazing closets. They also go to a ton of events. So they were really powerful on both sides, where we would see them as lenders and renters. A big part of our strategy of just getting off the ground and thinking about how are we building up supply in New York City, we had $0, so we had no marketing budget. We could not pay these influencers. So we had to get really creative with how are we adding value for these women who are ideally going to share about this platform. A few things. One, their job is to literally make content. So some of the first things that we did with our earliest influencers was host really scrappy free photo shoots in Soho. And when I say scrappy, I mean I was working with a student photographer from FIT. They wanted to build out her portfolio. I was standing there on the corner of two streets in Soho holding a bunch of green balloons so people knew where we were. And a few micro nano influencers showed up just to get some pictures. And they were able to use those photos for both their Instagram feeds, but also for their Pickle closets. And so that was the first way we were able to work with them, giving them value of those assets. And then the second way that we really think about it is the monetization factor. Pickle is a tool for them to be able to make money off of the items that are in their closet. There are women in New York City that are paying for their rent with their Pickle earnings, so it is quite a lucrative.
That is like one of my favorite fun facts.
It's a pretty lucrative side hustle, yes.
Like multiple 5 figures, like expensive apartments, you guys. They're paying their entire rent with their Pickle rentals. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's great. I'm a renter. I don't make that much on Pickle, but it is very, very great for people that have extensive closets. But the influencer aspect, we've never changed that strategy. We've raised over $20 million in venture funding, and we don't do paid influencer marketing. And it's not just because, obviously, we could allocate some of that to influencer marketing if we really needed to. We are using all of that money going towards like engineering and product, which is very exciting. If you know any good engineers, let me know. We're hiring. But we still work with influencers in this really organic way where they can make a lot of money on Pickle and they can engage with their community as well. They'll post something new from a trip they go on and their community is immediately commenting and engaging with them and saying, hey, can you please add this to your Pickle closet? And that also gives them a lot of value. So focusing on those factors have been really helpful for us to actually use influencer marketing without blowing our CAC.
Totally get that. And I think, I mean, that's one of the connections we share is community building. And I think community actually is the new influencer. And we really continue to see it coming out of the pandemic. People are just looking to connect and be part of something greater than themselves. And actual influencer marketing is not what it used to be. It's the community around it. And
Yeah,
I think
tying in the community is perfect for it.
and you basically have built that with Pickle. You have these like micro communities in New York, or I think you can talk to people like on profiles.
Yeah,
or-
you can message and everything. So there's in-app messaging on the app. So if you have questions about what you're renting, who you're renting to, you can just chat with them directly. And the community is all of our growth. 85 to 90% of our growth every single month is just word of mouth and women talking about Pickle.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so Gretchen, for you, same question, but I think your take is probably going to be a little bit different. So, what's an unpopular opinion you hold about brand building? It could be pricing, discounts, community influencers that most founders would not say on stage.
An unpopular opinion I probably have is that there is no silver bullet. You kind of can see these brands do like one big glitzy event or one big photo shoot with a celebrity and then they disappear. I think sort of what you touched on, it's really about building brick by brick. I prefer strategy and purpose over, like a one-hit thing. And I think that also goes back to the community and influencers. The influencers are sort of that they think one person wears it, one magic thing. And then community is about consistency and events. And my rebels are actually, my community is what I'm most proud of. Yeah, we do amazing events and, people get to wear their values
You have an
and
event
connect.
next week, right?
Yes, we have an event next week here at the Moore if you guys want to come. But yeah, it's definitely about like wearing your values and finding, I think, other people who share those same values. And then doing things, I think, out of the box is always like the best based on your community and your people. So like for this event, for example, we are having the Python huntress who hunts all the pythons we use to make our bag. She's coming. She's bringing a snake from picture Britney Spears VMAs. I'm a slave for you. The yellow snake. Yeah, she's bringing the snake. The snake will be here. The snake will be here.
You can take pictures.
Yeah, you can take pictures. We're going to do a dance to it.
It's going to be a thing.
It's really fun. So, yeah.
Okay, Gretchen, next question is for you. And then we have one more question for Julia, and we'll go into a lightning round. All right. Gretchen, what inspired you to rebuild Gigi Maull with a focus on sustainability and women's empowerment?
I wanted to build the most thoughtful, purposeful brand I could. After working for a lot of big fashion houses, you just see that either there's not a focus on functionality and it's just about a beautiful design, or they don't really take the customer into consideration as much. So I wanted to, or the environment, it's a big piece. So I was like, how can I build a brand that is female led end to end, from the woman who hunts the python to like they skin them themselves, to we're at a female founded factory in the US, to I design it, female based, we make our bags hands free so women can do more with having both hands free. And when you look at the top 50 big brands in the US, 14% of them are run by women, which for something like fashion that we should really own, we should be at 50% or higher. Yeah. Definitely in fashion industry, maybe for all industries, but yeah.
I love that. All right, Julia, liquidity, chicken and egg. What was the precise threshold, listings, active renters, response time where a neighborhood clicked, and how did you engineer that on purpose?
We paid a lot of attention to liquidity. So that's essentially just making sure that items that are getting uploaded onto Pickle are actually getting rented. And there were a few different things that we thought about there. One, we very manually created an amazing customer experience at the beginning of launching Pickle. Even the earliest days, we knew that we wanted Pickle to feel like an extension of your closet, because if you're in a pickle and you need a last minute outfit, you can get one delivered right to your door. We didn't have the couriers yet back in the day. So Brian and I, that's my co-founder, we were the first Pickle couriers. We ran around New York City for 7 months, fulfilling all of the orders, the first couple thousand, and learned a ton about our customers, learned a ton about liquidity, why people were converting, understanding the density of products and supply within different neighborhoods. We also learned a lot about our product, things that were going well, things that we needed to improve on. But it was very insightful for our overall product roadmap and figuring out how are we injecting liquidity into different cities as we're getting them stood up. We used some different incentive credits to try to get people to start renting. And then we paid a lot of attention to supply density within neighborhoods and within cities. Saw that as we expanded beyond New York into LA and Miami, that once you got to around 10,000 products, that was a bit of a magic number where you started to see enough of that density where you could go on the platform and there was a higher chance that you would actually find something that you wanted to wear, that you could style really well, that would fit you. And that was kind of that turning moment where we would see network effects really change in these different markets.
Amazing. Okay, so lightning round. You're going to say red or green and one line why. 30% off site wide. Red or green?
Red.
Red.
And either of you want to give color on why?
I think I prefer the not mark up to mark down and just giving your customers the best possible product right up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, it cheapens your brand. We even tried giving a lot of discounts before. By the way, I do have gift cards for you guys. They're gift cards, not discounts. But we tried doing that at the beginning, and we would try to see how people would convert with it. And it turns out that people just have to have an actual use case and conviction in renting.
Yeah.
You can't force people to rent for free. So I think same with discount. It's like, how much are you going to discount to force somebody to buy something?
Yeah, I agree. Influencer asks for equity.
To me, at least, that I think that's a green flag because they believe in your product and they believe in your company. So your values at least are aligned, and that would be someone I would want to work with if they asked for it.
I would only give it if they're investing. Otherwise, no. There's no sweat equity.
Retailer wants 120-day terms. And I guess I would say for your business model, like, what if somebody wanted payment on, I mean, what is your payment structure right now?
We take 20% and a lender makes 80%.
And how quickly do you pay out?
12 hours after the delivery.
Okay, so that's pretty tight.
Yeah.
That's very fast.
Very fast.
Okay, so we're going to skip this question because I don't think
It just shows how archaic retail is in general. It's a 100-year-old model, and like
it's so archaic. Okay, what is one, this is a fun one. What is one artifact that changed your trajectory? It could be like a screenshot, an email subject line, piece of press, a metric, one thing. First thing that comes to mind.
the first celebrity to wear Gretchen Maull was Charlize Theron, and I think that photo really just like made me feel like I have a real brand. This is really happening. And like full circle now, we're speaking to her about coming on a hunt with the Python Huntress. So
That's
like
so
10 years
fun.
later, it could all come back. So that's one that just pops into my mind.
Okay, I love that.
Our artifact was a viral TikTok. We did not create it. It was created by this woman, Jade Beglin. She's the founder of 4am Skin. I did not know her at the time. And she was making a video about what the hot girls in New York City are doing. And the first thing she talked about was Pickle, and it went so viral. And we looked at our dashboard the next day, and I thought all the numbers were broken because they were so much higher than we'd ever seen them before, which was great.
That's amazing. I love that story. Okay, what is one tactic anybody here you think can do in the next 48 hours to get a signal on some new entrepreneurial pursuit that they are looking to get started with?
Talk to a customer or a potential customer. It's so easy. Probably a lot of people in this room would be a customer for you.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I feel like if you have an idea or a business or something that you're toying with or you've already started, you can literally take advantage of all of the incredible women in this room and talk to somebody about your business idea and see if it resonates with them or vice versa. What do you say, Gretchen?
Yeah, I love throwing up new designs and new ideas I'm working on Instagram and letting my rebels poll and tell me what they think about it or a colorway. Yeah, you can get direct feedback right from your community that way.
I love that. All right. So thank you, Julia and Gretchen, for sharing your stories, your candor, your vision, showing us success isn't just about growth. It's about integrity, discipline, and showing up consistently for your community. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
you.